If you're just getting started with Dubsado, this is the very first step you need to take before you even look at the workflows. You can't build smart automations without knowing your client journey first. In this video, I'll give you tips and tricks on how to map out your client journey, what you need to include, what steps to take. This step is the foundation to your setup and will actually save you time in the long run, and it'll give your clients a better experience as you'll be able to see exactly what your client journey looks like and what is going on. I'm Betsan, a certified Dubsado specialist, and whenever I do a Dubsado setup, this is the first step I take with my clients. Let's get into the first step you need to take for setting up your Dubsado. So what is a client journey? I'm banging on about a client journey. What even is it? It's a step-by-step path that someone takes from the first inquiry to the final thank you, all the way through your offboarding process, your onboarding, payment. It's all the way through working with you, how you deliver the project, everything. It sounds a little bit overwhelming, me saying that all this process needs mapping out, but just take it in bite-sized chunks. I tend to break workflows down into 4 or 5 different stages. So you've got your inquiry process, your payment and booking, your onboarding, how you deliver the project, and you have your offboarding and follow-up. So once you've had the discovery call, do you pop over an email? How do you send over payment? Do you need a contract? How does that all look? Then, as I said, looking at onboarding, do you send a welcome email with a welcome guide and a scheduler to book a call, or do you just need them to fill in a form? How do you get all your information from your client? How does that process look? Also, it's very important to keep your client informed about what the process looks like. So having it all mapped out, you can look at touch points where you can let the client know what the next steps are. Once the project starts, do you have milestones where you send information over? Or, for example, a social media manager, you can send over your approvals each month. What does your process look like? Or as a VA, do you have a strategy call with the client once a month? And after the project's finished, do you do a training call? Do you show them all how to use the system you've just created? Or if you're a social media manager, do you send over all the assets that you've created for the client? Offboarding, do you ask for feedback? Do you send over all the deliverables? Do you ask for testimonials? Do you follow up with them after the project's finished or after you've started working with them, like 3 months later? Oh, hey, how are you getting on? All these things you need to think about before you even start entering anything in Dubsado. So just map it all out. I'll show you how I do it in a second. Or you can also do it on paper, like however you work. So when mapping out your journey, questions that you need to think about once you've mapped it out. So once you've outlined all the steps, think about, do I follow up if they haven't responded? For example, when you've sent over a proposal and they haven't got back to you, do you follow up with them? Then when do you follow up with them? 3 days later, 5 days later? Do you follow up with them, or do you have a team member follow up? Is it by email? Is it a DM? Do you need reminder emails for your calls, confirmation emails, and reminder emails to let them know that a call's coming up? Are there parts within your onboarding process where a team member steps in? For example, do they set up the Trello board, the ClickUp board? Do they help onboard the clients? What happens if a client doesn't fill their form in even after you've reminded them? What are the steps? What happens if they don't book their intake call? What steps do you need to take then? Or what happens if they need to reschedule? Are there any points within the process that you send over resources? For example, you could send over a welcome guide to walk them through exactly how the process is going to work with you. For example, as a social media manager, you could add in here about your boundaries, how the approval process works, how it's going to work with you creating their content, how everything works within the project, or how it's going to look like working with you so the client knows exactly how things look. Asking these questions now will help you later when going through and creating your assets for Dubsado. You don't want to be going through creating your workflow and thinking, oh, I'm missing this email, I'm missing that email, and not being able to create a workflow that actually works. What to automate and what not to automate. Not every single step needs to be automated, but you can automate probably a lot more than you think, and it still be personal. Here are a few things that I tend to automate within my process and my clients tend to automate. Within Dubsado, you have canned emails, which are the email templates. So you can have them within your workflow, and you can go in and edit these beforehand. For example, if you have them set as approve, you can go in and edit it or tweak it, like adding things like a Google Drive link in, or just tweaking the wording slightly. For example, my welcome email goes out, that's completely automated. After the client has scheduled their intake call, I then have an email go out with their intake form and their Google Drive link for them to upload any assets. I will need to go in and add that link. So that is set to approve, but I do this before the client's onboarded. So I'll just pop it in, so then it'll just all automatically flow, so I don't have to worry about it. So it takes me 2 minutes to add that in, and then it'll just run. So scheduling calls, sending contracts and invoices, delivering forms or guides, follow-up reminders, this can all be automated and still be personal for the client. The next thing you need to think about is what tools handle what. Most of your journey can and should run through Dubsado, but it does help to be clear. For example, I'll have most of my journey run through Dubsado, but then there's like certain things that Zapier does, for example, creating the Google Drive, creating the ClickUp area or your Trello area. There is stuff that other tools will do. You need to make this clear within your client journey workflow of what happens. And as I said, make sure you map out what's an email and what's a DM, just so you know exactly what is going on. Once you've mapped out your journey, it is time to list all your assets. So you've got all your assets and you can see what is going on within the process. You can do this on Google Drive, in Trello, in Notion, in ClickUp, whatever you use. Just look at the journey and then think, oh, this is I need this email, I need this form, I need this PDF, and you can go through and you can see exactly what is going on. I need a proposal, I need a intake call scheduler, a discovery call scheduler. So go on and list these out separately. You can go in and you can create these assets before creating your workflow. For example, if you have a discovery call scheduler, that discovery call scheduler needs an email to go out to invite the leads to book. It also needs a confirmation email, and it also needs your reminder emails. So for that one scheduler, you need 4 emails. So you need to know what emails you need to write and add into Dubsado before even going in and creating your schedulers or creating your workflow, because you can go in and start doing it and then be like, oh, I need this, and you could be flitting back and forth and wasting so much of your time. So you also need to look at your project statuses, list out your project statuses that you need, the documents you need like a service guide, welcome guide, anything that you have like that, what questionnaires you need. Just literally just list everything out and you will thank yourself later for taking the time to do this. To map my workflows, I like to use Whimsical. This is what I use when I do client setups as well. So you could do this on a piece of paper, you could do this on a different tool if that's what you prefer. This is the journey that I've mapped out for my retainer clients. So here you can see the key at the top, and then I've gone down and I have added in all the steps. This is really great if you're a visual person, and you can also see what's going on. You can see what you've got automated. You can see what steps you need to do manually. You can see what steps are done in what tools. And you could even add in, if you've got a team, who follows up with what, when people are followed up with, how they're followed up. Also, you can see at a glance here what emails you need, what forms you need, what PDFs. You can see here all the steps needed to create your workflow within Dubsado. So it's really great to map it out visually so you can see what is going on. As you can see, I haven't split up the inquiry and onboarding workflow here. I have it from A to B, just so I can see what's going on. I haven't got the offboarding here. I did do that separately. But yeah, so here you can see, zoom in a bit. So here we can see we've got the start, the discovery call, then after the discovery call we send a proposal, then this red triangle here is the client decision. So does the client make payment? No. Payment reminder goes out. If they don't make a payment again, payment reminder 2. Client makes payment again, then doesn't make payment, then starts a follow-up workflow. You could even add in here a DM if you like. Welcome email and intake form. If they pay, client fills in the form, again, it branches off for form reminders. Send intake call, invite if needed. They get sent the scheduler to schedule their intake call booked. And then it sends all the information over for them to get started, like their ClickUp dashboard, their Slack channel invite, all this stuff. Also here, we've got the call confirmation email and everything that goes out off the Dubsado scheduler. So all this yellow is what's actually automated. So as you can see, quite a lot of the process is automated within Dubsado. You can go in and edit and change bits before it goes out. I have it set as approve, but most of it is actually automated in my process. The send the DMs are these, and this setup recurring invoice, they're manual tasks. But as you can see, I barely do any manual steps within my onboarding process. So once a client makes payment, Zapier will create a Google folder, which then emails me the link. It will set up the client's ClickUp dashboard. You could do this with Trello as well. I used to use this with Trello before I actually started using ClickUp. So it will automatically go in and make a copy of your Trello board, your Trello board template that you have for your clients, and it'll set up the Slack channel. It then emails me all these links, so I've got them it'll just in my email to me, and I don't have to go in and create all these things. I can just go in and add them into the Dubsado emails that I need them to go in before they go out. So if you actually want to see this being set up within Dubsado, I do have a video of me setting up this exact workflow. I'll link it below. Once you've mapped out your journey, you can then list out your assets. So as you can see, you've got them all here. You can see what you've got. You can use a Google Doc, or you can add it into ClickUp, Notion, whatever you use as your tool. You can literally then write what you need. So as you can see here, we need send proposal. We need a proposal form. Intake form we need. Also need a welcome guide. We need to add that to list. Emails we need. We need a send proposal email. We need a payment reminder email. Well, 2 payment reminder emails. We need a welcome email. We need 2 form reminder emails. So on and so forth. You just go through and you can list them so you know what you need to create. Then you know exactly what you need to then go into Dubsado and set it up. Also, what statuses do you need? Send proposal, for example, or proposal sent, intake call booked, onboarding, like at whatever project statuses you want for it. Also list out the tags that are needed for the project. So what service is this, for example? And so go in and you can just pop all them in onto a Google Doc, into ClickUp, whatever you use, and just add it all in. And then you can go in and you can go through your list, create all the assets before you start mapping out your workflow. That's everything you need to think about when mapping out your client journey. I will say this is the first and foremost important step of creating your Dubsado setup, even though it's not actually in Dubsado. Once you have this all mapped out, you'll be in a way better place when you're trying to set up your Dubsado. You won't be there flitting back and forth trying to create a workflow and getting yourself in a muddle. You'll be able to create workflows that are strategic, intentional, and that actually work for your business. If you want help with automating your inquiry process, make sure to grab my free Dubsado Discovery Call Workflow template. I'll link it in the description below. And if you're ready for expert eyes on your process, or just want it taken off your plate completely, check out my Done For You Dubsado Setup service. Like this video if it helped, and drop any questions you have in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more Dubsado tips.